The vast expanse of space shimmered as thousands of Imperial warships materialized from hyperspace, forming an impenetrable wall above Earth's orbit. Their gleaming hulls reflected the sunlight from Sol, their sleek designs a testament to their purpose of planetary domination. This was no mere skirmish. It was a deliberate display of might, a warning to any species that dared challenge the Galactic Empire's supremacy. Aboard the Imperial command carrier, High Marshal Zarlok stood before the viewport, his arms folded behind his back, clad in his crimson uniform adorned with the insignia of the Empire's Supreme War Council, a symbol of absolute authority. He gazed down at Earth below, utterly unimpressed. "Open the broadcast," he commanded. A holographic feed flickered to life, connecting him to every military leader, diplomat, and citizen on the planet. "Humans," Zarlok's voice dripped with disdain, "your existence is a blunder we have tolerated for too long. You possess neither a fleet nor weapons of significance. Surrender immediately, or we will reduce your world to ashes." The silence that followed was punctuated by no response, not even a plea for mercy. Zarlok smirked. "Very well." He turned to his officers. "Begin orbital bombardment. Let's see how long their defiance lasts." Deep within Sector 17, aboard the Hidden Void Command Station, Elias Vast leaned back in his chair, a sharp glint of calculation in his eyes as he watched the transmission. The Emperor was making the same error as all before him, assuming that true power lay merely in numbers and brute force. "Commander Patel," Elias's voice was calm, "are the fleet's teleportation drives ready?" "All ships standing by," Patel confirmed, awaiting orders. Elias exhaled, pressing a button on his console, activating the fleet-wide communications channel. "All right, everyone, let's remind the galaxy why humanity endures." As the Imperial warships powered up their weapons, their plasma turrets glowing ominously blue, the first barrage of energy was fired towards Earth's atmosphere. Then, the unimaginable occurred. Half of the human fleet materialized inside the Imperial formation. Sleek, midnight black warships, smaller but bristling with weaponry, appeared from nowhere. Zarlok's eyes widened in disbelief. "Impossible!" The human warships vanished as swiftly as they had appeared, sowing confusion among the Imperial ranks. "Where did they go? How did they move without any detectable signal?" he demanded. Then, the first kill strike hit, an Imperial destroyer obliterated by a teleporting battleship's salvo of high-velocity plasma rounds, its shields failing before it could react. Panic spread as the Empire's formations disintegrated, with no room to maneuver. Each time they repositioned, the human fleet reappeared, striking exposed flanks. Aboard the Imperial flagship, Zarlok barked orders frantically. "Where are they coming from? How are they doing this?" But he was cut off as the battle map flickered, showing more and more ships blinking in and out of existence, wreaking havoc on his forces. In mere minutes, the Galactic Empire had lost over 50 ships, an unprecedented defeat against the pre-spacefaring world. Elias Vast watched the chaos unfold from his command deck, his fingers tapping rhythmically against the console. His strategy was unfolding perfectly. Zarlok's face reappeared on the main communications feed, his once arrogant smirk replaced with fear. "What is this, Zarlok?" Elias's voice was eerily calm. "Did you really think we would merely sit here and wait for death?" Zarlok's expression twisted with rage. "You have only delayed the inevitable. We outnumber you 100 to 1. You cannot win." Elias smiled slightly, his tone knowing. "Numbers don't matter when you can't hit what you're targeting." As if on cue, another Imperial battleship vanished in a blaze, its engines shredded by a human teleport strike team. Zarlok's composure cracked. He ordered manual targeting, but it was too late. Human ships coordinated their jumps, appearing inside Imperial battle formations, forcing the enemies to inadvertently attack their own vessels. An Imperial command cruiser tried to flee but was cut off by a human dreadnought, exploding in a devastating crossfire. The battle was not just a defeat for Zarlok, it was a humiliation. As hundreds more human warships materialized, surrounding his fleet, it became clear, this was not a battle, it was a massacre. Zarlok clenched his fists, his breathing uneven. For the first time in his centuries of military service, the High Marshal felt something he never expected: doubt. Elias Vass, from his command chair, watched the enemy's desperate movements, ready to deliver the final blow. "You're in our space now, High Marshal. And in our space, we set the rules." The view from Zarlok's flagship was now filled with a formidable sight: a multitude of human warships, declaring the Earth's indomitable spirit. About all that had been lost and all that could be gained from the ashes of the old empire. "We will call it the Age of Renaissance," Elias finally replied, his voice resonant with the promise of renewal. "A time for rebirth, rebuilding, and unity." Commander Patel nodded, the significance of the moment settling in. "A renaissance for the galaxy," he echoed, turning to look at the stars that twinkled with newfound respect for humanity. Elias watched as the transmissions from across the galaxy poured in, each carrying tales of liberation and hope. Systems that had once bowed under the yoke of the Empire were now looking to Earth as a beacon of freedom and strength. It was not just a victory for humanity. It was a new beginning for countless worlds oppressed by centuries of tyranny. They were fighting them head-on. They were inside his ship, a new kind of warfare. The Imperial command carrier's lower decks erupted into chaos. Elite human strike teams, small, agile, and armed with advanced pulse rifles, materialized in the hallways. They moved with deadly precision, neutralizing security forces before they could react. Captain Ree led the assault, his visor scanning the flickering lights of the metallic corridors. His squad moved swiftly, disabling key control nodes and overriding security locks. "Move fast," Ree ordered. "Once they realize what's happening, they'll try to purge the lower decks." The plan was brutally effective: teleport directly into enemy strongholds and dismantle them from within. Inside the Imperial bridge, the main control panel flickered. The ship's AI stuttered, unable to process the breach. Zar's heart pounded. "Shut it down! Lock down all decks!" An officer stammered, but it was too late. They had lost control of the entire ship. The ship lurched, gravity fluctuated, and the artificial atmosphere wavered. They were losing control of their own flagship. In desperation and defiance, Ziva refused to let this stand. He activated his personal command override, forcing a direct transmission across all Imperial channels. "This is High Marshal Ziva Locke. Do not retreat! Do not surrender! We are the Empire. We will burn this world to the ground before we let ourselves be humiliated." He expected a roar of approval. Instead, the channel was eerily quiet. Then, a distant officer's voice trembled. "Our forces, they're abandoning formation. They're running." Ziva's breath caught in his throat. Retreat? That was impossible. The Empire didn't retreat. He turned to his main display, seeing the horrifying truth unfold. Entire Imperial battle groups were breaking off, jumping into hyperspace. The survivors were fleeing. The once mighty Galactic Armada was collapsing. Ziva felt rage burn in his chest. "You cowards! You will answer for this disgrace." But deep down, for the first time in centuries, he felt something else: doubt. Inside the bridge of the Void Command Station, Elias Vass watched the Empire's last stand with cold calculation. He saw the panic, the breaking formations, the desperate last orders of a man who had already lost. "Commander Patel," Elias said evenly, "prepare the final strike. Target the Imperial flagship." Patel nodded. "Let's end this." Across the void, the human warships began their final maneuver, teleporting in rapid succession. They surrounded the Imperial command carrier, weapons locked. Zar stood frozen, watching as hundreds of targeting markers blinked right across his ship's hull. It was over. A final transmission came through. Elias Vass's voice was steady. "You called us insects, Marshal. Looks like the swarm just ate your fleet alive." Zar clenched his teeth, breathing heavily. He wanted to fight, he wanted to resist, but all he could do was watch as humanity pulled the trigger. The Imperial flagship erupted in a final blinding explosion. The ship was gone, its final explosion rippling through the void, sending shock waves across the battlefield. Twisted fragments of metal spun aimlessly, remnants of a ship that once commanded fear across the galaxy. But fear had changed hands. Humanity had done the impossible. Admiral Elias Vass stood on the command deck of the Void Command Station, watching the wreckage drift through space. His face remained unreadable, but the flicker of satisfaction in his eyes was unmistakable. "Status report," he said. Commander Patel scanned his console. "Enemy forces in full retreat. Over half the remaining fleet has jumped to hyperspace. The rest are surrendering or dead in the void." Elias nodded. It was over. The Galactic Empire had broken. The aftermath across the battlefield showed Imperial ships drifting, powerless. Some had gone dark, their crews abandoning posts, while others hailed human command, desperate for mercy. On one of the damaged warships, Captain Redhose, an Imperial officer once sworn to Tsar, sat in his ruined command center, smoke filling the air, alarms blaring in the background. He had seen wars fought in dozens of campaigns, but never had he witnessed a total collapse like this. "They knew," he muttered, staring at the transmission feed. "The humans, they knew we would come." His second in command, a younger officer with a haunted look in his eyes, swallowed hard. "What do we do now, Captain?" Redhose sighed. "We surrender." The Empire's last stand, deep within the Empire's core systems, the High Council convened. Their once opulent chamber, decorated with symbols of dominance, now felt suffocating. The hollow projector in the center flickered with the faces of scattered admirals and planetary governors, all demanding answers. "The fleet is destroyed," one of them growled. "We've lost everything." "Impossible," another snapped. "Earth is a single planet." They can't. The voice belonged to Grand Vizier Kelmar, one of the last voices of reason in the Imperial leadership. His face was pale, his hands folded tightly in front of him. "The humans have technology we never accounted for," Kelmar continued. "They planned for this war while we laughed at them. And now they will come for us." A deep silence settled over the chamber, and then the alarms rang. Earth's retaliation? The first strike came faster than anyone expected. Human warships materialized inside the Empire's core sectors, not at the edges, not in some border skirmish, but at the heart of Imperial rule. Elias Vass had brought the war to them. From the bridge of the HSS Revenant, he watched the Imperial capital of Viton Prime loom in the viewport. A planet untouched by war for millennia, its defenses were vast but not built to withstand a teleporting enemy. "Admiral," a lieutenant reported, "planetary shields are holding, but they weren't designed for a siege. We can wear them down." Elias considered. "No, we don't waste time." He turned to Patel. "Ready the infiltration teams. We end this now." The fall of Viton Prime. Imperial forces scrambled to respond, defense systems activated, planetary cannons targeting the incoming ships. But for every shot fired, human warships vanished and reappeared in unpredictable locations. On the ground, panic spread, citizens fled the streets, looking to the sky as fire rained down. Military outposts were breached within minutes, strike teams materializing inside command centers before defenders could react. Elias watched from orbit as his team seized control of the Imperial capital. It was surreal. For centuries, the Galactic Empire had stood as an indomitable force. Now, it fell within hours. A conqueror's choice. Inside the shattered halls of the Imperial High Council, Kelmar stood before a holographic projection of Elias Vass. The Grand Vizier's face was resigned, his shoulders heavy with the weight of reality. "You have won," Kelmar admitted. "The Empire is yours." Elias studied the defeated leader. "No," he said. "The Empire is gone. It collapsed the moment your fleet ran." Kelmar exhaled, weary. "Then what now? Do you destroy us, wipe us from history as we would have done to you?" Elias remained silent for a moment. He had the power to end them, to erase the last remnants of the Empire, to ensure humanity would never face this threat again. But he also knew that fear was the enemy of peace. "We don't need an empire," Elias finally said. We need a future. The galaxy will not be ruled by conquest anymore. It will be ruled by those who earn the right to lead. Kelmar studied him. And you believe humanity has earned that right? Elias's expression didn't change. We survived, we adapted, and now we lead. A new order. In the following days, the remnants of the Galactic Empire capitulated. Many worlds long oppressed under imperial rule rose in rebellion, inspired by humanity's victory. Across the stars, a new message spread: Earth was no longer a backwater world. Earth was no longer weak. Earth was now the center of galactic power. Elias Vast stood in the command center of the Void Command Station, looking out at the vastness of space. The war was over, but the real challenge was just beginning. Sir, Patel said, standing beside him, the galaxy wants to know, what do we call this new age? Elias considered. He thought about all that had been lost and all that could be gained from the ashes of the old empire. We will call it the Age of Renaissance. Elias finally replied, his voice resonant with the promise of renewal. A time for rebirth, rebuilding, and unity. Commander Patel nodded, the significance of the moment settling in. A renaissance for the galaxy. He echoed, turning to look at the stars that twinkled with newfound respect for humanity. Of the countless generations that had come before him, those who had built the foundation for this moment, who had fought to ensure humanity's survival, Elias Vast stood as the culmination of their struggle. He turned to Commander Patel, a faint smile crossing his lips. We call it the Age of Humanity. The war was over, but its echoes remained. The Galactic Empire had fallen, its fleets shattered, its leaders either dead or in exile, and its once mighty core worlds now swore allegiance to Earth. For the first time in recorded history, humanity was at the center of galactic power. Yet, as Admiral Elias Vast stood in the grand strategy room of the Void Command Station, he felt no urge to celebrate. There was no triumph in his heart, only the crushing weight of responsibility. Sir, Commander Patel reported, delegations from over 50 star systems are requesting an audience. Some seek alliances, others demand independence, and a few even ask for reparations from the Empire's former rule. Elias exhaled slowly. The battlefield had changed, but the war for stability had just begun. The Council of Worlds. A vast chamber on Viton Prime, once used by the Imperial High Council, now served a different purpose. Delegates from across the galaxy had gathered, their voices rising in tension. At the center of it all stood Elias Vast, not as a conqueror, but as a mediator. The Empire ruled through fear, he began, his voice calm yet firm. We will not make that mistake. Murmurs rippled through the hall. Many still viewed humanity with suspicion, afraid that one tyrant had merely replaced another. Then what do you intend, Admiral? Asked Prime Minister Svek of the Vendor Republic, a reptilian species that had suffered greatly under the Empire's rule. Will Earth now dictate the fate of every world? Elias met his gaze. No. But neither will we allow chaos to take its place. Kelmar, the last surviving Imperial official, stepped forward. And what of the remaining Imperial warlords? The ones still loyal to Zarlok? A silence fell over the room. Though the Empire had been defeated, scattered factions remained, leaders unwilling to accept Earth's dominance. Elias turned to General Rin, head of planetary operations. Status on the rogue elements? Scattered resistance, Rin reported. Some fleet remnants are regrouping near the Outer Rim, but the largest threat is a coalition of Imperial loyalists calling themselves the Second Dawn. Commander Patel frowned. They will not surrender easily. Elias's jaw tightened. Then we finish what we started. The Second Dawn's last gamble. At the fringes of the galaxy, in the Dreer Nebula, the last remnants of the Empire gathered under the banner of Grand Warlord Kael Varen, once the protege of High Marshal Zarlok. He stood aboard the ISS Ragnarok, addressing his fleet. The weak surrender, Varen growled. But we are not weak. A roar of approval echoed through the chamber. The humans think they have won, he continued. They believe their tricks make them gods. But gods can bleed, And we will remind them of that. Varen turned to his officers, his eyes burning with fanaticism. We strike Earth itself. A stunned silence fell over the war room. Even the most hardened Imperial commanders hesitated. An attack on Earth was suicidal. We do not need to win, Varen said, his voice laced with venom. We only need to show them that their reign is built on nothing but arrogance. We will make Earth burn, even if it costs us everything. Earth under siege. The attack came without warning. Massive energy surges were detected in the Sol system just beyond Pluto's orbit. Before human defenses could react, warships of the Second Dawn materialized near Mars, their engines burning hot as they accelerated toward Earth. Alarms blared across every military installation. On the bridge of the HSS Revenant, Admiral Elias Vass stood motionless, eyes locked on the tactical display. Multiple enemy warships inbound, a technician called out. They are heading straight for the orbital defense grid, another added. Commander Patel cursed under his breath. They are not trying to win. They just want to hurt us. Elias clenched his fist. Intercept immediately, he ordered. I want our fast attack teleport squadrons cutting through their lines, no mercy. Across space, human warships vanished and reappeared, striking at the enemy's weak points with surgical precision. Imperial battleships detonated one after another, caught in the relentless human counteroffensive. But the Ragnarok pushed forward, weaving through the chaos. They are heading straight for Earth's atmosphere, General Rin warned. Elias's pulse quickened. The final confrontation. The Ragnarok descended toward Earth, its weapons primed to unleash devastation. The planet's orbital defenses fired relentlessly, but the warship's reinforced Imperial shielding held firm. Inside the enemy's ship, Grand Warlord Varen stood at the bridge, watching Earth grow larger in the viewport. His expression was grim, determined. If we fall, he said, we take them with us. Then his ship lurched violently. Outside, the HSS Revenant materialized directly above the Ragnarok, its cannons unleashing a point-blank barrage. Inside the Imperial warship, Varen staggered as his officers shouted warnings. But he ignored them, turning instead to the transmission screen as it flickered to life, revealing the face of Elias Vass. You had your chance to surrender, Elias said coldly. Varen's face twisted in fury. You think your precious Earth is safe? Elias did not answer. He simply pressed a button. A final teleportation sequence activated, not to move his ship, but to forcefully teleport the Ragnarok's reactor core into deep space. Varen barely had time to register what was happening before his ship collapsed in on itself. The missing core triggered a catastrophic failure. In the next instant, the Ragnarok was gone. The aftermath of war. The last of the Second Dawn had been annihilated. Their desperate gamble had failed. In the days that followed, Earth solidified its position as the new leader of the galaxy. The remaining factions either swore allegiance or faded into obscurity. Standing on the viewing deck of the Void Command Station, Elias Vass gazed out at the stars, lost in thought. You made the right choice, Patel said, stepping beside him. You could have wiped them all out. Instead, you built something new. Elias sighed. Victory is not about destruction. It is about what comes after. And what came after would define the future of the galaxy. A future led by humanity.